Just as I couldn't stop smiling at my engagement ring, there was a sound of slapping flesh and skin coming from inside the bedroom. Curious, I put my ear to the door and was startled when I recognized the voice of the man outside. It was followed by endless moaning, and I could already guess what was going on in the room. Part 2. Sab, are you all right? I looked up to see my best friend, Cassie. She looked worried after seeing me on the floor. I shook my head, biting my lower lip to suppress my sobs. She walked toward me and pulled me up. Kath, I mumbled, tears forming again in my eyes. What's wrong, Sab? Why are you here? Cassie paused when she heard the noises coming from inside the room. She raised her eyebrow and cursed under her breath when she realized what was happening. Is that Tyler? She asked in disbelief. I nodded my head and let my tears fall. Damn it! I'm going to kill him, Cassie grumbled and was about to barge in when I stopped her. Don't do this, Cassie. I don't want other people to know about this matter, I whispered, tightly grabbing on Cassie's arm. She looked at me with pity in her eyes. Cassie was one of the people who was against my decision to date and marry Tyler after all. Sabrina is the only heiress of the Wilson family. She no longer has a mother and her father is sick. If we get married, almost half of her family property will be mine, Tyler added, explaining his plan to Amber. But if Sabrina accidentally dies after marrying me, everything will be mine. We'll be legally bound after marriage, so it's natural I get everything she had when she's dead. Isn't it nice and easy? He continued and laughed along with his other woman. I pressed my lips and clenched my jaws before dragging Cassie away from that place. He headed to the garden where I poured all the tears that had been forming in my eyes. It took me a few minutes to calm down and think of a way to destroy Tyler's plan. Why don't we hire some men to beat the shit out of him? Cassie suggested, calling up her fists. It was a good idea, but I had to refuse. I have another idea, I told Cassie and gestured for her to come closer. I whispered to her the details, making her smirk. I want that jerk to think that everything's going as he planned before destroying it. I will make sure that his dream will turn into a nightmare, I stated in a low voice. Finally! All these years you were like under a spell, blindly following that man. I'm glad that you finally see his true motive, Cassie exclaimed and hugged me. After discussing our plan, Cassie and I returned to the banquet hall. My expression turned dark when I caught a glimpse of Tyler and Amber in the corner. They looked like nothing happened and just enjoying the party even though they were fooling around behind closed doors. Shameless, I mumbled while glaring at them. I wanted to knock their heads together, but I held back to avoid causing a scene. I had to pretend like everything was all right to fool the people who betrayed me. Taking 2 glasses of wine from the passing waiter, I sauntered toward my fiancé who enjoying his time with another woman. For you, I said, giving him a glass of wine while keeping the other for myself. Let's cheers, I added before raising my glass in front of Tyler, ignoring Amber whose face turned sour when I came. By the way, I want to introduce you to my friends. Let's go. I faked a smile as I clung to Tyler's arm. I felt disgusted, but I had to do this much so he wouldn't notice I knew something. Sure, Tyler beamed in excitement. Come on, Amber. Sabrina's going to introduce us to her friends, he told Amber, who was quick to reply with a nod and an annoying smile. Yes, Amber can come too. Let's go. I can't wait to introduce you to others, I giggled before wrapping my arm around Tyler's. Tyler was taken aback. He surely didn't expected me to act like that. He looked confused for a moment before shaking his head. What's wrong? This is unbelievable, Tyler mumbled, looking at me with his eyes widened. You weren't friendly with Amber before, but now you're smiling at her, he continued. I jokingly slapped his arm. Oh, my apologies. That's because I thought the two of you had an affair. I doubted your relationship, but now I'm fine. You proposed to me instead of Amber, so I'm relieved. There's nothing to be afraid of anymore, I explained. Tyler turned pale for a second before agreeing with me. Is that so? I'm glad you no longer doubt me, he said. The 3 of us headed to my friends, and I introduced Tyler to everyone. I also mentioned Amber and made it clear that she's just like a sister to Tyler. The way Amber's expression became uncomfortable made me smile in secret. After a brief yet warm introduction, I urged Tyler to join my father's business partners so he could be familiar with them. Tyler didn't hesitate and brought drinks to the group of men talking about business, leaving Amber and I with my friends. Let's go, Amber. I'll introduce you to other guests, I said, holding her hand. Amber tried to pull away, but I tightened my grip while smiling. She was about to retort when she noticed Tyler was looking at us. Amber wanted to impress Tyler, so as long as he was around and there were other people watching, she couldn't do anything but to pretend to be kind. She wanted people to praise and saw her in a good light. Meanwhile, Cassie came and excused me from the group. Amber wanted to come along, but before she could say anything, Cassie already dragged me away from the table. How are you? I cannot believe you managed to pretend like nothing happened. That's brilliant though, Cassie said, impressed. I have to. I don't want them to win this, I said while looking at the other girls who started talking and laughing, excluding Amber from the group after I left. The girls continued talking loudly, making sure Amber could hear them. Lucky, isn't she? If not for Sabrina, I wouldn't even associate myself with the likes of her. Right. I heard she's an amateur actress. Well, maybe she could be an extra with the face she have. I still think it's shameless to cling on to someone who's in relationship. Ugh, I hate people like her. Me too. I hope she realized how kind Sabrina Serena is to let her tag along on this high-class event. The laughter continued, completely making Amber an outcast. Julia was leading the other girls after I told her what happened. She was also well known in high society's circle, so it wasn't a problem for her to influence others. Julia agreed to my plan when she knew about Tyler and Amber's affair. They're all expert at this. Let's keep this up, Cassie cheered and handed me a glass of wine. I found myself enjoying the rich wine flavor when all of a sudden, someone screamed. Turning my head to where the voice came from, my suspicion was confirmed. Amber glared at Eve, one of my friends, who kept apologizing to her.